We'll jump right into to weather and start with a scene that's been, I think it's Kurt mentioned, all too familiar here over the last several weeks. But as we look ahead here, there are some changes in the forecast. Some things, the more they change, the more they stay the same. We are looking at a cool pattern here over the next couple of weeks, so that's going to be a continuation of where we've been. But there are some changes with regard to precip, and I'll get to those here in a second. One thing I want to start with as we look at the last several weeks, which is interesting, and I think it brings a little bit of perspective as to how this season has begun. But if the three panels here, these are looking at mean temperatures here over the last 30 days, so back to early April through the earlier part of this week. And if we look at our departures, and if you ask anybody in Michigan or the Great Lakes region for that matter, do you think it's been above or below normal? I think probably 95% or more would probably say below normal or cooler than normal. And indeed, if you look at the actual averages, that's what this map here on the left, or the chart here on the left, suggests. Actually, if you look at the statistics, the southern part of the state, and as you go south into the Ohio Valley, you can actually see it was a little bit warmer than normal, which is somewhat surprising, but cooler as you go to the north and west. Now, that's not the end of the story. The reason I brought this up is because if we actually look at the minimum temperatures at the same time frame, we see that those have actually been very close and even a little bit milder or warmer than normal over the same time frame. But the real story here is on the far right, our panel here, looking at our maximum temperatures. So our daytime temperatures have been significantly cooler than normal, and most of what we've experienced here, certainly in terms of degree days, and I'll show that next, is a result of cool daytime temperatures. And this has many impacts, physical links with what's been observed with degree days, certainly also with soil temperatures. And when we don't get the heating of the ground at the top, our soil temperatures lag behind normal. I showed an image of that last week, and it really hasn't changed that much. Many soil temperatures in many parts of the state still remaining in the 40s. So they're behind normal. And one of the reasons that has also happened is the frequency of precipitation. And with more clouds, we have less sunshine. And again, all of these factors are related, pointing to a delay or a slower than normal start. I mentioned degree day totals here. These are the actual base 50 totals. This is beginning March 1, so we're really looking at overwintering crops here or perennials from the beginning of March through Monday. And here's some of the totals on the left. But I think the real news again, and a not surprising news on the right, these are departures from normal. Virtually all of the state and the region, for that matter, are lagging behind normal. And relative to last week and the week before that, we've actually lost a little bit of ground. So most of the state right now is a full week, in northern parts of the state, 2 calendar weeks behind normal, or where we typically are at this time of the year. And again, this relates back to those cool daytime temperatures, especially. Not a big surprise there for anyone. But the other part of this, the glass half full side, is that if we were to have a warmer than normal week or two, we could eat into these deficits very, very quickly. It wouldn't take much time. Well, let's look at where we are. Look ahead here. These are current forecast or current weather conditions across the U.S. And the big story is another area of low pressure, and there's just been literally a parade or series of these systems moving through the central part of the country over the last couple of months. And this is the latest in that series. Currently located over southern and eastern parts of Wisconsin. You can also see here a warm front trailing off to the east. At least for large portions of the lower peninsula, that's going to make a difference in temperatures today. We should see, especially if we can break through the clouds later on this afternoon, we should see many locations in especially the southern and central lower, make it up to 70 degrees. And with that, I will say this is going to be the warmest day of the upcoming week, because we'll be looking at a downward trend after today. As the cold front here on the back of the system moves through, that'll begin later on this afternoon and into tonight, and there's much colder weather on the north and west side of this. We don't have to go too far to see an example of that. This morning, it's only in the low and mid 30s in portions of the central and western upper peninsula. And well, again, it's May. It's almost the beginning of the second week of May, and we're talking about frozen precipitation. We've actually got some snow, at least mixed. Some cases it's all snow falling here, and there are some accumulations expected here during the day as this weather system moves from southwest to northeast across the region. But it will clear the state by tomorrow. We'll show that. There is one positive aspect to this. Again, given all the delays over the last week or two, I've inset the radar shot here across the Great Lakes region. This is from about 6:30 this morning. And with this particular weather system, most of the moisture has gone farther to the north than had been previously forecast. And so large portions of the southeastern lower have been generally missed. Have maybe had some few sprinkles. That's even true here in the East Lansing area. But the rainfall with this system was not as heavy in general as had been earlier advertised or suggested by the forecast guidance. That's always a good thing. But there are areas of the state, certainly in the northern part of the lower and into the upper peninsula, that have had heavy rain with this, already over an inch, and more is expected to fall here over the next 12 hours or so. So as I'll loop through here till tomorrow morning, you can see here's the low pressure system now up and all the way almost into Quebec. And all of the precipitation with this is cleared off to our east. There will be a few lingering showers across far eastern parts of the state, probably tomorrow morning possible. But by and large, most of the state will be either clearing or clouds with reduced cloudiness during the day and significantly cooler conditions than was the case today. Tomorrow, most of high temperatures dropping at least 20, if not 30 degrees. High temperatures only in the 40s north and 50s in the south, with a brisk west to northwest wind behind here. But again, it will be drier. The next weather story to talk about is this area of high pressure, which is out over the Central Plains. That will move to the Great Lakes region by late tomorrow night and Saturday, and set the stage by Saturday morning. As you can see, it's centered here right over the lower peninsula. We will see, probably given cold enough temperatures with this air mass, at least the threat of or possibility of frost and freezing temperatures in many parts of the state. I think right now that will generally, freezing temperatures probably will be confined to the upper peninsula and the interior northern lower peninsula. I don't think we'll see a widespread freeze, but frost certainly will be possible. It will be a mostly clear, calm type of morning. And along with that, we're getting statistically, at least for central parts of the state, we're pretty close to the average last 32-degree Fahrenheit reading of the spring. We've already passed that in the southwest and southeast corners. And again, typically we see frost and freezing temperatures in the northern parts of the state well into the latter part of May. So that's not too unusual, but the threat is there. Note that it will be a dry day across the state. After today and into early tomorrow, the next chance for any precipitation, and this is really the theme, the rest of the talk here, we're looking at a gradually drying pattern. And I think that's a positive thing to note given where we are in the season. The weather system out here over the prairie provinces in Canada will drop down into the Great Lakes region late Saturday, but more likely Sunday into Monday. That's the next chance for any precipitation. But in contrast to what we've experienced over much of the last 2 weeks or so, it will only be scattered. I think many areas will remain dry or not see any precipitation at all. I think the next greatest threat of significant precip probably not coming until at least Wednesday or possibly Thursday of next week. And in honesty, the jury's still out a little bit on this one, but that one could also be relatively scattered. The forecast guidance is distinctly different than it has been over the last week or two in terms of the frequency of precipitation, which has been very, very high, as everyone knows. In terms of what's going to be in the rain gauge here by next Thursday morning, looking at the projections, most of the state a half an inch or less, actually in the western part of the state less than a quarter of an inch, and most of that is coming today. So as we look ahead, it is not, at least the weather guidance here is suggesting probably below normal precipitation totals for most of the next week, and much of what you see here, especially the half-inch amounts plus, will be occurring later today. And that's when there will be, by the way, with the system today, there will be two major threats of precip, one occurring right now as we speak over the next hour or two. The second will come later this afternoon and this evening as the cold front makes its way through. That will especially be true for the eastern lower peninsula. We probably will see some thunderstorms there. They're not expected to be severe, but some of them could be strong with some gusty winds, maybe a little bit of small hail. But most of the severe weather with this, or rough weather with this, will probably be to the south of Michigan. But then ahead, probably less precip than what we've been dealing with. And that's finishing up here, looking ahead into the mid-range, a very strong signal here. We look at the jet stream flow. The big change from last week, it's a similar pattern with a ridging out over the western part of North America and then troughing over the east. The big change from last week is the troughing here over the east is stronger than it's been over the last week or two. We have northwest flow aloft, and that means that we're going to see more Canadian origin air into the Great Lakes region, into Michigan. And with that, below normal mean temperature is a very, very good bet. The 8 to 14 day out look is almost a carbon copy of this one. But here's the change. Here's the big change, and one that's certainly worth noting as we look down here at precipitation totals with that northwesterly flow. The good news is that this active storm track that we've been dealing with and experiencing here recently will be suppressed to the south, down over the Ohio Valley or even further south than that. And as a result of this, you can see the brown areas here are B. That is below normal precipitation expected. Again, that is true for much of the next 2 weeks and possibly even longer than that. So looking at a cooler and drier than normal type of weather pattern here as we summarize. Today will be, for many areas, will be the most significant rain we see in at least a week. That's certainly a good sign. A little bit of snow possible up in the far north. Mostly fair and cooler this weekend, although there are some scattered showers possible in places on Sunday and Monday, but it won't be a widespread rainfall. And then again, frost and freeze conditions are possible, especially northern parts of the state on Sunday. Next week, the next chance for anything significant, I think probably Wednesday or Thursday of next week, but significantly, even though cooler than normal, will be at least 3 or 4 degrees below normal or more than where we typically are. Most areas will see highs in the 60s and lows in the 40s or even some 30s north, but fewer chances for precipitation. And that's I think that's important. This is likely to continue on into the second half of May. The guidance this morning was looking at does suggest some moderation in temperatures as we get into the latter part of May, but overall it's not going to be turning the key for an instant change in fieldwork opportunities, but it certainly does suggest some improvement here, gradual but steady improvement over time. And with that, I'll finish up and see if anyone has any questions. Thanks, Bob.